Welcome in. Brand new betting preview for this week's Mayakoba Championship. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there. Andy Lack. Andy, good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. I would say that this is, for as far as fall swing events goes, this is probably one of my favorite. So excited to sit down and talk some Mayakoba with you.
Yeah, the golf course is fun, right?
Yeah.
And different and unique. And then it's at least top heavy at the top. There's like a big four and Scotty and Victor and Colin and Tony Finau. And then the rest of the field is like guys that I play or bet every single week. So I'm pretty happy with the field, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that the fall swing struggles with is finding compelling narratives. Like, it feels like a lot of these tournaments just don't really have any character or identity. I think trying to see if Victor can win this 3 times in a row is compelling. Like, I am actually, as a golf fan and viewer, I will bet anything that moves. But as like a golf fan and viewer, I'm actually compelled to see what Victor does in his title defense.
His title defense or whatever
Yeah.
it would end up being. Now, I was thinking about this last night. Who are the guys that have won the same event 3 years in a row? Obviously, Tiger probably did it, 900 times. I can only think of one more.
Tiger's the only one that comes to mind. This was something I easily thought about researching and probably would have taken like 20 minutes to research and just didn't get to in my busy yesterday. But what's do you have a non-Tiger division one that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, the only other one I figured out was Steve Stricker.
John Deere?
John Deere 3 years in a row, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't
that's
like 3 out of 4 years. I'm pretty sure it was 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's a good one. I figure Tiger's probably done it at Bay Hill.
Yeah.
Or, maybe
if there's probably like 8 occurrences of it ever, and Tiger is probably 7 of them or something outrageous like that.
Yeah. And I think Victor has a better chance this year than, this field is significantly weaker than the field that he beat last year. Right. So, I think he can do it. Do you think he can do it? He's your guy. Are you betting him?
I bet him every week, so it's like not a fair thing. But listen, the game, the deficiencies are being less deficient. And I think when he gets to a place like this, that he knows playing out of the short grass and the fact that he can hit it longer than most who are that straight, like, is a big advantage. And I think he definitely gets up. I will tell you, I texted him yesterday. He called this the 5th major. So that's how he treats this. Okay. So he is definitely ready for this.
I would say there's been like I'm hesitant to call it like a giant improvement, but I would say I've noticed recently like a pretty subtle uptick in his around the green stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like he is at least very cognizant that is probably the aspect of his game that's holding him back from being a top 5 player in the world. And he has been kind of working on it. And for the record, I think this is a golf course where, like, the degree of part of the reason he's had so much success here, I think the degree of difficulty of the around the green shots here is fairly low.
Yeah. The ball tends to sit up a little bit and make it a little bit easier to get around town. Here's the odds board. This is Odds Checker, which they pull in all the lines and kind of show you the best numbers available. There's a lot more people who now have access to shopping multiple books. So now if you do have the access to shopping multiple books, this is a super handy tool. No surprise to see kind of the 2 at the top, Scotty Scheffler 9-1, Victor Hovland going for the 3-peat at 11-1. Then Billy Horschel sneaks his way in here. The same odds, 18-1, as both Colin Morikawa and Tony Finau. Those are really, I called it a big 4 earlier, Andy, but I guess we have to throw Billy Horschel in here odds-wise and make it a big 5.
Yeah. I think that honestly, Aaron Wise is kind of getting the love as well here. I've seen Aaron Wise as low as 20-1 at a bunch of places, but for me, it's Colin. I still believe in the ball striking. It was a kind of a vintage Colin Morikawa performance at the CJ Cup, where I think he gained like over 6 ball striking, 4.5 with approach. Like, obviously it was the putter that held him back, but this is a guy that lost 8 strokes putting at Riviera and then won the concession at his next start. we see a lot of major variance with this guy's putter, where he has proven on multiple occasions that he can look downright lost with the putter one week and come back the next week and putt well enough to win a tournament. So for me at the top, Colin is the player that has my most interest.
So we've been on this run of 20 to 1 or shorter winning, enter the chalk winning, which essentially guarantees I'm not going to be winning anything in the outright market when, 12 to 1s are constantly coming in. How seriously do we need to take this? Right. I mean, this is now probably 10 months of like disproportionately short odds guys winning golf tournaments. Maybe it's attributed to kind of the middle of the pack and the live guys leaving, but this part of the board has been more profitable in the last 10 months than it probably ever has been since Tiger was winning half of the events he played.
I think you need to take it seriously. I think it is a fair thing to assess. I mean, it's not going to stop me from, like, I bet CT Pan this week at 180 to 1 because I just can't help myself. Right. But no, last week, Rick, was actually a week where I really felt like I noticed it, where Seamus Power was a good example of this, where if you looked at Seamus Power's numbers heading into the event, he's like lost with his irons. Like it was the worst iron run of his entire career. He had lost on like 7 straight starts. He's coming off a start where he lost 7 strokes on approach, something like that. Like it was just literally, in my opinion, unplayable. But then you like look at it a second time and you're like, well, is Seamus Power probably a top 4 player in this field? Just if you strip everything down and think about talent, probably. And there you go. You see him win, right? So I think that there probably is something there. I don't know if it's got to be more than just the fall swing, because this has been going on for quite a long time. But I would say that the only thing that I'm changing is sometimes I get bogged down by the numbers. And if a bad player, and I underestimate a great player's ability to cut through whatever he is showing short-term statistically and bet on the talent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just like look at the last 100 rounds and then start looking at compare that to the odds board. I brought up Scotty Scheffler here because he's the favorite, Andy, but man, the stats don't really elicit a ton of confidence. He made the putter switch in South Carolina and had his worst putting performance since the 2021 Tour Championship. So that wasn't the quick fix that he was looking for. I mean, there's a path where if Scotty can just gain 1 stroke with the putter, he wins this thing, right? I mean, the rest of his game's so sound.
Right. And he's been good at this course before. He finished 4th last year. I think he has another top 20 too. It's just, the odds are too short. And I don't think that Scotty, I think that he has done enough to warrant those type of odds in this field, and probably deserves those type of odds for, the next couple of tournaments that he plays based on what he was able to accomplish last year. With that being said, it's just a little bit too short for me. And honestly, if I'm going that high at the top, I'd rather bet Hovland.
Yeah, makes sense. I probably should have included Aaron Wise in that discussion, because there's a pretty big drop off from him at 20 to 1 to Grillo, McNeely, Hoagie at 35. This is the range that, if I didn't know anything about how frequently the favorites have been winning these golf tournaments, I'd be just like drooling at this, right? I mean, the opportunity to get like Brendan Todd, who's had great success at Mayakoba, 45 to 1. Jason Day, who's hitting it well again, 50 to 1. I like this range. I'm just worried if one of these guys can actually pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of guys I like. I'll throw in Tom Hoagie and Emiliano Grillo too. Tom Hoagie has a very specific skill set that is going to make him a lot of money on the PGA Tour, and that is that over a large sample size, he is like a top 5 wedge player in the world. Like, he is inside 150 yards. It's Morikawa, it's Russell Henley, it's Tom Hoagie. Right? Like, it's Justin Thomas, right? Like, Tom Hoagie is now, we have 2 years of data that Tom Hoagie is one of the best wedge players in the world. And that is a skill set that I believe is going to make him a ton of money for a number of years. And I think that this is a golf course where you have one par four over 460 yards. I think that 3 par threes under 155 yards. I just think that this is a spot that is going to accentuate his best skill set. So Hoagie was probably the guy in this range that I had the most interest in. He's playing great.
He's putting better, and he's still missing the shorties, right? Like I swear I've seen him miss like 3 5-footers in the last couple of times, and he's still, +2 in each of his, or more in each of his, in his last 4. He's been phenomenal. Let's continue to go down here. Look at this. If you, I mean, is this right? Taylor Montgomery, 28-1 at DraftKings, but Caesars is still hanging a 50 on him. That's why I like the grid.
The grid's great. Yeah, I just like, you see, there's been I saw some pretty big variance between, like even Dietrich a little bit too. Montgomery's just somebody I'm never going to bet. Like
you're out on him for sure.
Well, it's just like, if you've been playing him, keep playing him. I totally get it. If you haven't been playing him, like, I'm not going to hop on to a guy that's gained 25 strokes putting in his last 4 events. Like, I'm just
are you trying to tell me he is not Lucas Herbert and Denny McCarthy combined into one?
And Cam Smith, like, just, he's past Cam Smith in true strokes gained as the best putter over the last year. And I thought Cam Smith was like on the most insane putting run I've ever seen. So yeah, I listen, I just like, I'm never going to bet this guy, and he is probably going to continue to beat me. But I have done well in my career not chasing putting, and so I'm not going to start now. But man, I mean, it's just like, after a certain point, you just have to be like, man, wow.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable run. You get a couple of the like Paspalum guys down here. Like you mentioned Emiliano Grillo, he's got a great record on Paspalum. He's obviously much shorter, but like Joel Damon, whose win came in Punta Cana, and he's got a bunch of results. Otherwise, he's 70-1. Is there anything else kind of in this tier that we should discuss?
Yeah, I think Damon's going to be a really popular bet. I didn't get there for an outright, but I definitely have some interest in him in terms of DraftKings and some positionals. I bet Hayden Buckley at 80-1. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he seems like it's still we still don't have like a ton of data on him, but he is an incredibly accurate driver of the ball, it appears. And to me, this is a position A, position B golf course. Like, you are dead on arrival if you cannot drive the ball in the fairway here. If you're in the mangroves, you're not hitting the green in regulation. It's most likely a penalty stroke, right? And Hayden Buckley is a player that has proven over a decently large sample size that driving accuracy is like a skill for him. And he's been playing great this fall swing. So Buckley was probably the guy I have the most interest in.
He was 15th in accuracy in the 2022 season, and right now he's 36th. Obviously, a smaller sample size here in the fall, and he's 7th in strokes gained off the tee. I watched him. I watched a lot of him in Vegas. He left so many strokes out there, right? And he was like furious with his game. It looked terrible. I looked it up at the end of the week. I was like, holy crap, he still finished T20. It's like, this guy, I think there is a lot of juice to squeeze out of Hayden Buckley still.
100%. And I was talking to our friend that we did a podcast with last week, Joseph Lamagna. And I asked him, because he looks at data very similarly to we do, except he does it in the context of like schedule optimization and working specifically with players. And I asked him, like, what's one player that you think is really freaking good that maybe we haven't, isn't a household name yet? And he immediately was like, Hayden Buckley. I was like, huh, interesting. I'm like kind of seeing it too. So yeah, I think this is a good time, 80-1, to attempt to be early on a guy like Hayden Buckley. And yeah, we'll see.
Triple digits. You mentioned CT Pan. We haven't gotten that far yet, but Burmeister's been playing well all over the world, as short as 65-1, as long as 100. Who are some of the dart throws that are worth this triple digit number here?
I have a Justin Suh problem. I mean, it's just like, I was talking to a friend last night on a podcast, and he was like, are we sure Justin Suh's not a Ponzi scheme? And I was like, no, I'm not sure. I can't definitively say that, but he hit the ball great at the CJ Cup. And this is a guy that coming out of college was in the class of Morikawa and Hovland and Wolf, and was anyone's best bet to be just as good as those players. And he's kind of stalled at the beginning of his career, but I still think that he has the talent and pedigree to succeed at this level. So would be a guy that I was interested in. I bet Svensson pretty much every week. I think this is another one of those, like, he's been good at the Sony Open and a lot of these short positional courses. But yeah, I don't have a ton of bombs. I mentioned CT Pan as well. I should mention him. I bet him at 180 to 1. But yeah, you're right. I find myself more recently not going as much the long shot route that I typically do.
Fair enough. Okay, let's chat a little of the matchup market here. So I've got both DraftKings and Bet365 up here. There were a couple of interesting ones. Like, they gave Morikawa the nod -130 to Emiliano Grillo. I thought that could have probably been a different matchup for Morikawa at the top. I thought it was a very natural, like, give me the Victor versus Morikawa matchup here. Justin Lauer has just been awesome. So he gained at least a stroke to the field in every round last week, which is just that solid floor that I like. And he's been playing awesome. And he's even money to Sebastian Munoz is -120. I like Munoz, but you could see him finding some mangroves this week, could you not?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a difficult time fading Munoz just because I like Munoz this week, but yeah, Lauer, he's another guy I was talking about yesterday. He might be good. He is another guy that has shown that, like, he is a really, really good wedge player. The sample size isn't as great as we have for Hoagie, but he has shown that this is like a skill that he has in his arsenal. I'm trying to think if there's any. I mean, we do this every week just for pure pain purposes. Who's Taylor Montgomery matched up against?
I've got a Mav McNeely on Bet365.
Okay.
McNeely is -120. And I think you might like this one. Hoagie -120.
Yeah.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah. I'm doing that. Yeah. I'm going down with the ship with this Taylor Montgomery thing. He's going to lose 5 strokes putting 1 week. It may be a year from now. And I'm going to do the biggest I told you so lap ever.
And then he's going to gain like 6 the next week.
And then he'll gain 6 the next week. Right.
Okay. Anything else? We don't usually get into like the, dude. So you saw last week that DraftKings had the wrong line for that. I think it was Knox and Dietrich to both finish inside the top 5. And it was like, I don't know, 4 times too long. And I think for the first 36 holes, both those guys were in the top 5, and I was getting all the tweets of like, I got my $50 in, I got my $10 in, let's go. And then Dietrich finished runner-up, but Knox, I guess, faded to, I don't even know what he finished.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
That one.
Have you spotted anything crazy this week, or is the DraftKings intern, maybe he got a stern talking to last week?
Yeah, I think he got a stern talking to. I don't see anything the most outrageous things are all right. I'm not going to show you. What do you think, dude? These hole-in-one props are. I'm going to open a book and just do hole-in-one props. What do you think the true odds for, let's just say, Victor Hovland? And these are short par 3s. Like, what are the true odds he makes a hole-in-one this week?
Probably 500 to 1.
Okay, 65 to 1 is what DraftKings is offering.
Dumb. Yeah.
With when I run for president and all of my platform is just like sports betting stuff, I would require books to offer a no.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, do people bet this?
I mean,
I feel like people do.
They have like every player in the field. And then they drew the line and said, Marty Dow is actually 80 to 1 to Adam Hadwin's 65. We started to draw the line here. I guess people bet these. They got every player in the field.
That's crazy to me. Yeah, you are honestly, like, hats. If you're betting Marty Dow hole-in-one this week, like, you're a man after my own heart. Like, hell yeah.
Imagine that finally coming through and you getting 80 times your money. Should be like 8,000 times your money.
And I guess you could say, like, listen, I'm going to bet Marty Dow 80 times. I'm going to bet Marty Down to make a hole in one in his next 80 tournaments. And you can't really talk to me until the 81st tournament when I'm really down.
It's insane. The only guy that I would actually bet, not actually, but like Corey Connors seems to make a hole in one every 6 weeks.
That's the guy that probably, but then again, they probably have him at like 35-1.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We'll continue to talk props. We'll talk one and done, but we're going to take a quick break and hear a word about Andy's podcast. Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. Okay, Andy, the PrizePicks golf market is not available as of yet, unless you want to get involved on hits, runs, and RBIs. Hits plus runs plus RBIs for tonight's World Series game. Bryce Harper is 1.5.
Yeah, so as a Philly fan, like, what's the state of the union? Like, how I hate the Astros as a Yankee fan. Like, how are we feeling?
So, I mean, if you split on the road, which they did, that's a win. Right. So
yes.
you go 1-1 on the road. Also, a little bit of house money here for the Phillies, right? They were the wild card team. They were 28-1 when the playoffs started to win the World Series. It reminds me a lot of when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and they were underdogs and on the road every single week. And they just embraced this like us against the world underdog. It reminds me a lot of that. This is all gravy to me, right? Like this team fired their manager, 60 games in. This should have been just a nothing burger of a season. The fact that it's 1-1 game 3 of the World Series, it is all gravy for me.
Yeah, that game 1 was phenomenal, by the way. Who's the JD Real Muto or something? The guy that had the yeah. I'm rooting for you guys. Yeah, I agree. And I think baseball, from what I've heard from, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but from the guys that I follow baseball a lot more closely, they have said that baseball is the most conducive to variable outcomes, right? So you are going to see the most variance from week to week. So even if you think a team like the Astros looks unsinkable, baseball, you never know.
Baseball is, I mean, obviously like the money ball, like you can just dive in. Baseball has finally figured it out with all of the advanced metrics and everything. And it's an individual sport disguised as a team sport, right? I mean, it's a team sport, but it's this pitcher versus this batter. And it's just like a very individual thing, which I love. The other thing is this is an entire, I thank God I don't live in Philly anymore, because I'm sure sports talk radio is just nuts right now, because Thursday is Texans versus Eagles, and the Eagles are undefeated. It's just a constant Houston versus Philly thing.
Yeah. And you have a really like interesting Sixers team too. Like rough start to the season, but like a lot of intrigue and preseason expectations as well. Yeah, Philly sports making a little bit of a renaissance there.
Real quick, just to so PrizePicks is when these props come out, probably later today. I think they start dropping after the tee times come out, which is probably something that we forced them to do because we were slaying them so much based on wave advantages. But the code you're looking for is Rick. There's a link in the description. You can get a deposit bonus. The one thing, Andy, thinking about fairways, right? You got to play accurately. You'll see a lot of guys club down. You'll see a lot of guys play positionally. Do you think that impacts how many fairways some of these guys are going to end up hitting?
Yeah, I think out of necessity, like you need to hit fairways at this course or you're like literally going to shoot over par. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, I would be looking at fairways props, right? Like a player like Morikawa probably, or even Hovland, who gets a lot of run for his distance, but is also like one of the most accurate drivers of the ball on the PGA Tour. I would definitely be looking to go over on some of the fairway props based on the numbers.
Okay. One and done. So you and I are in a slap fight over here. I went with Aaron Rye last week, got 15,275. You went with Nick Hardy, got 56,550. So I'm at 305 for the year. You're at 178. I mean, maybe we can just break through the $1 million mark sometime before April. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a lot of like, I think Nick Hardy with like a T24 was one of my better results of the season. So yeah, I need a top 5. I need some form of everything good there.
Yeah, Armina she actually, I think she was trying to remove the slide from, and she removed
And
me
she
from the
removed
show.
removed you.
Which is great.
Well, okay. So I think that I kind of want to, I'm not going to do it. I thought, I thought for a second, it just play Victor. Like, honestly, is there another spot where you are not you're going to really want Victor more than this week? I'm not going to, oh, well, it's you first.
Yeah, it's me first, which
Okay, you go first.
I'm going to take Victor. So I think the situation is, it's interesting, right? Obviously, this is an event and a course that sets up really well for him. It's one that I know that he wants quite badly. And is there another scenario, unless he goes on to win multiple times, that he will be 10-1 anywhere else? Like, are you going to get a 10-1 Victor anywhere else?
I don't think so. I don't think so. He's not the type of player yet where you feel like you need to save him for a major championship. There's a couple spots that he's had a lot of success at before. Bay Hill, I think, is a pretty good course for him. I think Memorial, Riviera, these are all good courses for him with bigger purses than this week. But you're going to have guys at all of those courses that you could feel pretty comfortable with. I can't argue with the Victor pick here. Do you think that he's going to be the most popular and one and done?
For sure. In fact, I'm actually probably not going to choose him in the run and done, because as of right now, site wide, he's 22% owned, by far the most popular. So I will probably use someone else, because there's 800 people in the run and done. But between you and I'm going to take Victor. But yeah, he's seemingly shaping up to be far and away the most popular.
Yeah, well, in the run and done, I mean, you could pick any player in the field, and that would probably be better than my selection, which has been no one for the past 2 weeks. But I respect the Victor play. I guess I'm going to go with Aaron Wise. I don't know how many times Aaron Wise is going to be 20-1, and I'm not going to bet Aaron Wise at 20-1, and don't know if I'm going to play him in DraftKings either, because it seems like he's going to be pretty popular. So I think one and done. I like Aaron Wise this week. The betting number's a little short for me. So I typically like to play guys that don't make it onto my betting card, but I want some exposure to in one and done. And that's Aaron Wise for me this week.
Shaping up that Victor is about 22%, Aaron Wise about 13.5%, Billy Horschel 13.1. Those are the only 3 golfers above 9% at the moment. Hoagie and Finau at 8.8 and 7.2. Anyone, I mean, which I would hate to burn Colin Morikawa at in Mayakoba. I'll look up what the winner share is, but looking at 2.4% right now.
Yeah, that may be the play in the run and done. That's too short. That is honestly way too short for Colin. I love to see that.
So it's the winner share is 1.47, which is up from last year.
Yeah. I mean, I like, we talked about the major championships on a podcast earlier last week. Like, I kind of have my guys for the majors. I don't have Colin Morikawa as winning a major this year. He certainly could, but the places that I would want to burn Morikawa over this, I don't think you need to use him at a major, but it's your Rivieras, it's your course, he'll probably be very close to the top of the odds board at Colonial and Heritage if he plays, which, I guess has a bigger purse than this, but not like crazy bigger. So I definitely see the logic in playing Morikawa here.
That'll be interesting when RBC Heritage Travelers are now like $20 million.
That's right. Yeah, elevated.
Right. So, all right. Have to think through that this off season. Okay, Andy. Anything else before we get out of here for Mayakoba or anything? You mentioned it. We recorded a podcast on your show a couple of days ago. Do we know when that's coming out?
Yeah, it's coming out the first week after golf stops. So we have 2 more events. We have Houston Open and RSM. I will release that one literally the Monday after the RSM. So 2 weeks from now, it's a good one just to tease it. Kyle Porter, first time on the podcast.
Yeah.
Joseph Lamagna, really smart dude that I've been riding for a while in terms of a guy that should get more exposure and really knows his stuff. And it's a fun one. So look out for that one.
We had a good time. Just a couple weeks left. I'll be at the RSM Classic. So if anybody's going to be there, I'll probably be there. It's shaping up like Thursday and Friday, which I know is not always conducive for people who are like, oh, I'm going to be there on Saturday, which is obviously when most people show up. But if you're going to be out there Thursday or Friday, sounds like I will be there, and should be a good time. I've never been there. Have you been to Sea Island?
Never been to Sea Island. It's on my list. Seems like a pretty good golf destination. But that should be fun.
Kind of hard to get to. You have to fly into Jacksonville and then like drive an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. But
yeah, that's unideal. Last thing you want to tease is the fantasy stuff.
Dude, so I've been up to my ears in season-long fantasy stuff, which is great, right? Because I think, when you, Joe, and myself we're kind of talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, this is going to be well received, right? Like, we think this is going to be well received, and we think people are going to enjoy it. And for people to be kind of over the moon and ready to play season-long fantasy it was exciting. So I think our thoughts, it's hard for us to kind of be like, oh, of course it's going to be popular, right? Like, we're going to like it. Doesn't everybody like it? But I think that's being validated at this point.
Yeah. I give you all the credit for being the brainchild of this. It's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, man, this hits all the notes of why fantasy football is so popular. You don't really run into some of the issues that you do with fantasy baseball and fantasy basketball. This actually has like a more structured, singular focus, the way that football does on a week-to-week basis. So I personally cannot wait.
So where we're at right now, the update for where we're at right now is we had 113 people say, I'll be a commissioner, which is amazing because we got to like create all these leagues and we got to get the settings all updated. So the commissioners and myself right now are going through and creating a bunch of leagues with a bunch of different settings. Some might be snake draft, some might be auction, some might be whatever, right? 10 teams, 12 teams, 6 teams. And then hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to release this spreadsheet that we have and say, okay, here are all the available leagues. Here are all the links to the available leagues. Have at it. Go join, go pick the ones that are right for you. And we'll kind of build a little community. And then our league, I've got one spot left. And I'm not even going to say it on air who I have in mind for this spot. But you and I are going to play in a league that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we'll do a draft. Live, right? We'll live stream
live, or
it'll
definitely be on video somewhere, whether we do it live or just record it and release it, but it'll definitely all be documented. Yeah.
Right. So we will do that probably sometime around Thanksgiving or in December.
I wouldn't even mind waiting until I guess either late December or like the week of the Tournament of Champions if we're going to start at the Sony Open and
sure,
something like that. But yeah, sometime in the next December, January-ish.
Yeah. So if somebody's listening to this right now and they want to get involved, where would you point them?
So what I'll do is I'll ask Armina to put the link in the description. So there's a sign up form. So she'll add this. So there's a sign up form. It's a Google form. It's like 4 questions long. Are you interested in playing? What's a good email address for you? would you be willing to be a commissioner? Yes or no? And then what type of buy-in would you want to play for? Because there's some people just want to play for free. Some people want to play for $25. Some people, somebody emailed me and was like, I want to start the $10,000 league. I was like, okay, I'm not sure how many people you're going to get, but I appreciate your dedication to this. So Armina will put the link in the description. It's in there right now. If you refresh and then just sign up, and then I'll be sending out communication as we get closer.
Cool. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. All right. I love it. Andy Lack available on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. Producer Mina, all the hard work behind the scenes. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your betting preview for this week's Mayakoba Championship. Good luck.